I'm here today with Rachel Zhou, who is here to talk to us about her study on globalization, transnationalism, and multiculturalism, some reflections on HIV/AIDS services for Chinese immigrants in Canada. So Rachel, can you tell me what the purpose of your study is?
Because since the 1990s, People's Republic of China has become top source country of Canadian immigration. So we have a huge size of Chinese immigrants here. So we want to know how this kind of immigration processes, including settlement process, have affected their vulnerability to HIV here.
Okay. And what are your findings so far from the study?
So far, if I can say it within 3 seconds, I would say some new word which we call the transnational spaces. Basically talking about different from earlier generation of Chinese immigrants. A lot of Chinese immigrants right now, they're living in the so-called transnational space. They keep a very close connection with their home country, which is China. Mm-hmm. Partially is because China's economy is booming. A lot of skilled immigrants, because they have a university degree, they can find a better job in China. But at the same time, the wife and children normally will stay in Canada, and also this is reflected the settlement challenges that are related to employment, because if they can find a good job, or they define it as a good job here, they don't need to experience those kind of involuntary separation among married couples or families.
And then how does that relate to HIV transmission?
Because in our study, we find a lot of family experience a long-term separation. For example, one or two women who we interviewed has those kind of experiences, 7 or 8 years of involuntary separation. So their husband working in China occasionally or once a year visits their family in Canada, because those kind of long separation were result in some, the relationship or sex outside marriage. Mm-hmm. But again, for Chinese families maintain that marriage is very important for kids and for the extended family. So they will keep married, but at the same time, those kind of silence around the sexuality or extramarital relationship make them very hard to deal with HIV risk that may involve in the process of separation.
Another thing you mentioned is the use of the term Asian actually kind of is challenging in terms of HIV prevention. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Because one of the things we find is that when we look at the so-called ethnocultural services in Canada, we find a lot of agencies use the term Asian, whether it's Eastern Asia or Southeastern Asia, particularly because this is part of strategy for you to secure the funding either from provincial or federal levels. But if you look at the current globalization processes, actually one of the results of globalization has generated what sociologists will call it as super diversity, which is diversity within diversity. Even we're talking about Chinese, there's this super diversity among the groups in terms of their, the educational background, and also their family situation, their employment experience, and so on and so forth, let alone Asian. But again, we're kind of talking about when you use those umbrella big categories, it sometimes may compromise the intention to provide culturally sensitive or effective services.
So how do you hope to apply your findings?
I think, first of all, I think the current HIV services should integrate with settlement services, not only because settlement process generated a lot of root causes for HIV infection, but also because when you integrate settlement services and also HIV services, you can engage a process that we call destigmatization. So people will feel like HIV is something that we can call normal, rather than we have go to certain services with that title to get that kind of information. And also it's kind of methodology to develop a holistic services, all those things intersecting together. Mm-hmm. So in that way, we'll be more effective and less stigmatized.
Well, thank you, Rachel, for your succinct and also excellent points on how to kind of give holistic care for Chinese immigrants when it comes to HIV servicing.